Hello and welcome to Aha, a human amongst humans. I am your humble host, John J.W. Oxenford, and I'm here to entertain, preferably. Happy Wednesday at 6 p.m. The sun's still out. Very nice weather for me personally. I love the sun. I love the spring and the summer. But I'm learning how to love the other seasons as well due to the good things you can do there. So I hope to, in the end, love all of the seasons. That would be cool. Today I'm feeling like the Five of Hearts. That's the card that I'm feeling today. And I choose that card because for some reason I always relate it back to my childhood in a kind of simple, comfortable, and a more me kind of way. I feel a little bit more me with the Five of Hearts sometimes. I suppose chronologically you'd want to go from five to six, seven, eight, nine, ten, you know king, ace, or queen if you're oriented in that way. And then it's kind of confusing, where does the jack come in? Is that sort of in the stages of development? And then I just get confused and go in a bunch of circles that never end. But whether I am progressing to the end or messing around with different cards when I feel it. Today I feel like the Five of Hearts, and that is a good feeling for me today. Um, Congratulations to the World Cup for going on in our country. It's awesome in North America in general, and it's been awesome to see the teams. Some of my teams have left, some of my teams are still there. Well, one of my teams is still there, but I'm not going to put my bias on anybody who's watching the show. I think there's a lot of amazing teams and players out there, and it's totally fun to watch. I'm actually feeling. I was talking to Tristan just now. I'm feeling like uh, a new vibe around, you know, around just walking around. I feel like things are more comfortable, more, maybe warmer, more happy, And I think, having all of these people from all these different countries come to, celebrate their team just being here is such a beautiful thing. And I feel like the vibe is really improving and getting better. And I hope we remember this moment, this about a month, just so we can keep that going until we meet again. But loving the World Cup. I'm going to be uploading my next demo next week, probably Wednesday, because I'm going into the studio to record demo 7. I won't tell the title just yet, but if you're interested in my music, please check that out. It's going to be out next week, and I think it's going pretty well. As the others, there's going to be some really good sounding riffs. There's going to be some mistakes that I'm going to have to redo. So, it's got its own standard, but basically, I feel like it's going well. I listen to my old demos and I think, oh, wait, there's a mistake, and then I think, oh no, but that sounded really good. So it's just me playing guitar basically, and I have a lot of fun doing it, and I get a lot of listens and likes. Well, enough for me to feel happy about it and continue. So I appreciate everybody who listens to my music. There's been some people who have just totally just dove into my demos, and I just so appreciate that. And I'm trying to be more of a listener and I giving some likes and follows, instead of just kind of sitting back and seeing what happens. Because I really do enjoy the music on SoundCloud, and I thank the that platform for being available for artists. So today we're going to continue with the Tao Te Ching as we did last time. I didn't upload that video yet, but I'm going to take a look at it soon and see if I want it out. But here we are with, I think we're on verse 5 here. And I have a few, verse 5, and I have a few bookmarks that I wanted that have some little quotes that were off in my mind. And I wanted to kind of talk about them a bit before we go into the Tao. Um, Here's one. I saw a commercial that said, it was about websites, Indeed, a website that helps people find jobs. And it said, it's just something simple. It said, people need jobs, jobs need people. And I got that sudden idea of that feeling of when you have a really good job, it just feels like there's this different, there's like a maybe a spiritual element to it where you just feel the job almost working itself, and I feel like, people need jobs, job needs people, you need people to work for you. But once you get into a job where you really, get into the pocket of just that really nice feeling of happy to be here, what's next, you maybe think there's some sort of spirit in the job, maybe when it was created, by the greater powers who created this job, maybe there's some sort of spiritual element to it. And then I have another one. Actually, I made some teams that I voted for the World Cup 2018. So I think that was the Women's World Cup. On the back of it, I have a quote from a band called August Burns Red on the track "The Frost" from the album Phantom Anthem. I think that's it. It says, "Open soul, open mind. I'm finally focused on what's inside. I've gained a new perspective." And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. I've been thinking about, you know, will really doing well on one task affect another task to improve it? If you stay consistent on a task, on a chore, or a hobby, and you really try hard on that, can you convert that energy to a different task? Will one thing trying really hard at it help the other? And will it just be, as long as you don't drop the ball, will it be an ongoing cycle where your life just improves by level by level by level? You can. So what I'm trying to do with that is find the extent and the limits of my energy, and invest all of that energy, whatever amount I have, into a task, and then bring that energy back, appreciate what I've done, and then bring that same amount of energy to another task to eventually improve my life. So that's just something I thought would be cool to think about. It's something I'm trying to do. I'm praying actually now. I'm praying for that, because I think prayers do work. And there's actually something in verse 5 that I connected to when I was just reading it before the with that concept that I was reading through this verse. And the first half of it I don't like, but the second half of it I got a real cool idea back when I was reading this for a class in early 2020s. Um, so heaven and earth are not kind. The 10,000 things are straw dogs to them. And I read that and I just thought, I'm not going to get anything from that. I don't like it. This next one, the same. Sages are not kind. People are straw dogs to them. I didn't like that either. I just thought, what are you talking about? And then it says, yet heaven and earth and all the space between are like a bellows, empty but inexhaustible, always producing more. Long-winded speech is exhausting, better to stay centered. I don't know about that last line, but I'll read that bit again, and I have a little note of mine to read. Yet heaven and earth and all the space between are like bellows, empty but inexhaustible, always producing more. So I just got that thought to praying, and I was thinking, what am I praying to? Who or what am I praying to? And I've a little while back I was thinking I want to pray to the power of the universe, scientific universe. I want to pray to the deity of the universe. And I thought, how am I going to word this so that this great power will not get the wrong impression? What words am I going to use? How am I going to say them? And it says, heaven and earth and all the space between are like bellows. And so rather than there being a God, sort of almost, a person in the clouds who listens to you and says, I understand, you shall receive. Maybe this power of heaven and earth is something that you need to wield. It's something that you need to be careful of your wording for so that it doesn't get the wrong impression. And maybe it's not a being who is listening. Maybe it's a power in which you manifest through being able to connect with it on a way that it will understand you. So that was something I was thinking about. I've been thinking about for a while about that. I may have said it in another show, another episode of this show. But let's go on to verse 6. I have not read this in a while, and I have some side notes, so forgive me for some pauses. The valley, the valley spirit never dies, and I wrote here the word valley starts with a V, and I think that's so cool. Either a V or a U, because a valley is sort of a descending lower, a part lower in the ground where there's a stream and there's trees and happy environment, and so a valley is kind of a dip in the land, and valley starts with a V. That's kind of a dip, or a U would, if it was pronounced, that would be a dip. So I thought that was pretty cool. I just kind of went off and, oh, look at V. But the valley spirit never dies. I really like that. I don't know where it's going with it, but I really like that first sentence. It is called the mysterious female. So the way I was thinking of valley, being a healthy, environment, growing trees and a stream, and that kind of female concept of a mother cultivating her child or her family. And it's called the mysterious female. Maybe mysterious because some people don't understand it. The entrance to the mysterious female is called the root of heaven and earth. So relating that kind of Mother Earth to that heaven and earth. So there is sort of a compassion in heaven. There is a compassion in the earth. It may be wild. Rather than tame, you want to be able to connect with it on a way that it will understand you. But there is that Mother Earth that in the core, the earth is a healthy place, meant for, healthy lives for everyone. Endless flow of inexhaustible energy. That same concept of kind of, okay, kind of like an Einstein thing. I can use this energy for this task, and then that energy will come back to me, and then I'll use this energy for this task, and that next day. I'm not saying run around and complete all your goals at once and then you sit down and you're all set, but in your own time, this can be done. Yeah, I wrote the note that I said I must remember this. Verse verse 7. Heaven is long, earth enduring. So the comparing those two words, long and enduring, kind of thinking long in what way, enduring saying, oh, long in time. And I wrote here, or is earth longer than heaven, or heaven longer than earth in duration? And I suppose the general concept will be that heaven will always exist, but was that concept of heaven made on earth and only earth? And if earth were to die, would heaven as well? Long and enduring because they do not exist for themselves. Therefore, the sage steps back, but is always in front, stays outside, but is always within. No self-interest. Self is fulfilled. So kind of taking away that ego of, self-interest. I want to be in front. I want to lead the crowd. But the sage steps back, but is always in front. So the sage is back there cultivating the energy for the march, and all the people are equal in the march. And it's not being led by one person going, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you that. I'm just going to read this note I made. I'm going to try to read my handwriting from back then. So something like a program, an inexhaustible I must have been working on the computer a lot, thinking about the Matrix. But I thought, what if it's enduring eternally because it is a program, an AI or something like that. I don't really think that's appropriate to what we're talking about now. So we go to verse 8. Best to be like water. That made me think of Bruce Lee. He says in an interview you can find on YouTube pretty easily, I believe. He says, "Be like water, my friend. Water can never be. Water isn't stopped. It just flows around obstacles, and water can become any obstacle when poured within. But yet it is still formless. So very Taoist kind of mentality, I think. Uh, Best to be like water, which benefits the 10,000 things. And they keep on referring to this 10,000 things, which last episode I thought I like that because the number 10 is cool. It represents God to me. The number 1, which is an individual, and the number 0, which is like the earth or the womb. And an individual equal with the earth would be God. So 10,000 things. I think thousands, I think there's a lot. But we're talking about water here, um, and does not contend. So there's no argument there. It's not trying to prove something or make somebody do something. It does not contend. Uh, it pools where humans disdain to dwell. Yeah, so water can be anywhere pretty much. Close to the Tao. Tao, like the depths of water, like space. I was thinking, there's often in the Tao they talk about space, and then they're talking about water, and just this concept of these different elements. Right now I'm here, I'm breathing air, and there are molecules of air that we're breathing. And then you can go underwater and you can't breathe it, but you can be in this different set of molecules. Just kind of, I was swimming the other day and I was noticing, I go under the water and I'm in almost a different dimension. And then I get out of the water and there's the air, and it's a different element to this dimension we're in. So close to the Tao, live in a good place, clean, healthy living space. Keep your mind deep. So meditate. Think about those things that really interest you. Keep that going on in your mind to work on those and to grow. Treat others well. I believe, that's really important for us to be compassionate for each other. And maybe that's a huge word, but just to be nice to somebody, really kind of helps that good energy flow. Stand by your word. Don't tell lies. There's a time in my life where I made the decision to stop telling lies because I just felt like it was in the back of my mind, and it made me into a liar, and I could it was hard to it made me feel worse. So I tried to stop lying a lot of years ago, and it's really helped me feel my conscience feel better about myself. Keep good order, like your time, your job, your living space, your schedule. Do the right thing, no lies, no evil. Work when it's time. And I don't understand that now, but I did a note here. Don't be lazy or procrastinate. Work when it's time. So there is time to work. When it's time to work, work, because that'll help you be functional and active in your life. That'll help you be alive, breathing, you're not sleeping, and maybe that's the reason for a job. There were years back where I was saying, oh crap, I have to have a job. I have a job, I have to work. But I found when I wasn't thinking about how negative it was that I had a job, I actually enjoyed the job. Not all of them, but there were some that were really nice. And they helped me grow as an individual, and they helped me grow as a being and a human being. And so work when it's time to work. Only do not contend, and you will not go wrong. So when you're not producing anger, or you're not producing pessimism, or you're not producing laziness, or anything like that. Um, those won't be reflected back to you, you know. And doing no wrong means there is no trouble that will come to you. You've done what you need to do. You know, you're going for what you need to do. You got it on your schedule. You completed the task. On to the next one. I get the impression often that even a small task completed evolves us. We grow with every task we complete, even if it's something very simple that is done. Now on to the next moment. And I wrote another note that I remember now, but I don't think I brought with me, that I was thinking of the original moment, either when we were born, or conceived, or when the universe started, and I was just thinking there is that one original moment, but every moment after that is original as well. It may not be the first moment, but the other moments are original after it, meaning that they have not happened before, they will not happen again, they're now. Even if I'm just going to stand here and look at you, and not say anything or do anything, this moment has never happened before, because it is not the past, it's not the future, it's now. And now is always moving, and will always become past. And the future is, basically not predictable. So that's verse 8. Let's go on to verse 9. Hold and fill it, not as good as stopping in time. I had no idea what that meant. I just had a question mark on that over here. Measure and pound it. So maybe cooking or something. It will not long survive. Oh, violence. If you're aggressive in your search for the Tao, and your search for peace, if you're angry about trying to have a good life, it's not long to survive after that, because anger will only be reflected back to you. Yeah, I thought when first time I measure and pound it, I thought they were talking about cooking. I thought, oh, that's nice. When gold and jade fill the hall, they cannot be guarded. I didn't know what that meant. And I thought of the Odyssey. I think I was reading that as well at the time, and I said, this concept of uh, Odysseus's wife, sort of, treating all these suitors, not being with them, but they all came because they wanted to marry her, and she said, let me draw this painting here, make this, weave this tapestry here, and once I'm done, I will choose one of you to marry. And every night she unravels it, and a bit of it, so it can't be seen, but she does that, and she's just waiting for Odysseus. And I thought, that is the gold and the jade, um, that filled the hall, but they cannot be guarded. Sort of like, it will not, all these suitors will not be, safe from the return of Odysseus. Um, Shout out to Matt Damon doing that role in the new movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to, and I'm so glad that Matt Damon from Massachusetts is in that role, and I can't wait to see it. Riches and pride bequeath error. Said greed and jealousy passing on from generation to generation. So this concept of, you create in your mind, what you create in your mind may continue in your family. Your family continues, and if you teach them lies, they'll lie. If you teach them anger, they'll be angry. And yeah, and I just think, clearing your mind as soon as possible will only improve your life, only improve, uh, the next episodes of what you're going to go through. Um, and I think it's also kind of a way to invite good events into your life as well. And that kind of that thought about manifestation, that thought about maybe you're not creating what's coming to you, but you're showing this kind of wild power what you want in your life. So you in whatever way you can you contact it. Um, you just want to, that will reflect back to you. Uh, Withdrawing when work is done, heaven's Tao. That maybe just that have that feeling of when you've done a really good job at work, or you've gotten something real done, you got a big old chore done, and you worked real hard the entire day. You know, you come back home and you relax, and that's heaven's Tao. You just at peace. You're relaxing. You're not going to extremes. You're just hanging out and enjoying the night. Or that the end of the day. I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote here. Um, I say maybe that's why heaven and earth is not always with us. Heaven does its work, sets everything in order, then withdraws to see how things evolve. This is also the eternal program of heaven. So I was thinking, you know, maybe that's why there are still bad things happening in this world. You know, Heaven comes in phases, maybe. Maybe good and evil come in phases. And I'm not saying that's eternal. And I do believe we can change that. But maybe that's an explanation for why things are bad because heaven was resting at that time. I don't know. Um, um, what else did I want to say there? Yeah, I was thinking of the suits in cards, and I'm sure I've said this before.